May 24, 1914. O my sweet Master, let me not be submerged by outer things. They have no interest, no savour for me. If I am busy with them, it is because it seems to me that such is thy will and that the work must be accomplished integrally, down to the smallest details in action and in substance. But it is quite enough to turn our attention towards them and infuse thy forces into them as much as possible. We must not allow them to take precedence of the true realities in our consciousness. O my sweet Master, I aspire to thee, to the knowledge of what thou art, to identification with thee. I ask for a love increasing, growing ever purer, ever vaster, ever more intense, and I find myself as if submerged in matter. Is this thy reply? As thou hast thyself chosen to be submerged in matter so as to awaken it little by little to consciousness, is this the result of a more perfect identification with thee? Is this not thy answer to me? If thou wouldst learn how to love truly, it is in this way that thou must love. In the darkness and the inconscience. O my Lord, my sweet Master, thou knowest that I belong to thee and that always I will what thou willest. But let not a doubt of what is thy will be born in me. Enlighten me in whatever way in the immutable peace of the heart. Let me be submerged in darkness, if it is necessary, but let me at least know that it is thou who willest it. O Lord, in reply, I here chant in my heart the hymn of the gladness of thy divine and permanent presence. May 25, 1914. Divine Master of love and purity, grant that in its last stages, its smallest activities, this instrument which wishes to serve thee worthily, may be purged of all egoism, of all error, of all obscurity, so that nothing in it may pervert, deform or stay thy action. How many nooks are yet in the shadow, far from the full brightness of thy illumination? For them I ask the supreme happiness of that illumination. O to be a pure crystal without stain which allows thy divine ray to pass without obscuring, colouring or deforming it. Not out of a desire for perfection, but that thy work may be accomplished as perfectly as possible. And when I ask this of thee, the I which speaks to thee is the whole earth, aspiring to be this pure diamond, perfect reflector of thy supreme light. The hearts of all men beat in my heart, all their thoughts vibrate in my thoughts, the least aspiration of the docile animal or of the modest plant joins in my formidable aspiration, and all this lifts itself towards thee, to the conquest of thy love and light, scaling the peaks of the being to attain to thee, to ravish thee from thy mobile beatitude and make thee penetrate into the shadow of suffering so as to transform it into divine joy, into sovereign peace. And this violence is of an infinite love which gives itself and of a confident serenity which smiles in the certitude of thy perfect unity. O my sweet Master, thou art the triumpher and the triumph, the victor and the victory. May 26, 1914. On the surface is the storm, the sea is in turmoil, waves clash and leap one on another and break with a mighty uproar. But all the time, under this water in fury, are vast smiling expanses, peaceful and motionless. They look upon the surface agitation as an indispensable act. For matter has to be vigorously churned if it is to become capable of manifesting entirely the divine light. Behind the troubled appearance, behind the struggle and anguish of the conflict, the consciousness remains firm at its post. Observing all the movements of the outer being, it intervenes only to rectify direction and position, so as not to allow the play to become too dramatic. This intervention is now firm and a little severe, now ironical, a call to order or a mockery, full always of a strong, gentle, peaceful and smiling benevolence. In the silence I beheld thy infinite and eternal beatitude. Then softly a prayer rises towards thee from what is still in the shadow and the struggle. O sweet Master, O supreme giver of illumination and purity, grant that all substance and every activity may be no more anything other than a constant manifestation of thy divine love and thy sovereign serenity, and in my heart is the song of gladness of thy sublime magnificence. May 27, 1914. In each of the domains of the being, we must awaken the consciousness to the perfect existence, knowledge and beatitude. These three worlds or modes of the divine are found in the physical reality as well as in the regions of force and light and those of impersonality, infinitude and eternity. When we enter fully conscious into the higher regions, it is easy, almost inevitable, to live this existence, this light and this beatitude. But what is very important, as also very difficult, is to awaken the being to this triple divine consciousness on the most material levels. This is the first point. Then we must find out the center of all the divine worlds, probably in the intermediate world, from where we can unite the consciousness of these divine worlds, synthesize them and act simultaneously and in full knowledge in all the domains. I know that there is a great gulf between these incomplete and imperfect explanations and the sublime reality which manifests thee, O Lord. Thy splendor, thy power and thy magnificence, thy incommensurable love are above all explanation and comment. But my intellect needs to represent things to itself in a manner at least schematic, in order to enable the most material parts of the being to put themselves as completely as possible in accord with thy will. Nevertheless, it is in the deep silence of my mute and total adoration that I understand thee best. For then who can say what loves, what is loved and what is the power of love in itself? All the three are but one in an infinite beatitude. Give to all, O Lord, the boon of that incomparable beatitude. May 28, 1914. Thou settest in motion, thou stirrest, thou churnest the innumerable elements of this world, so that from their primal darkness, their primitive chaos, they may be awakened to consciousness and to the full light of knowledge. And it is thy supreme love that thou usest for thus churning all these elements. And it is from thy infinite, unfathomable heart that spring these inexhaustible torrents of love. Thy heart is my abode, thy heart is the reality of my being. In thy heart I have nestled and I have become thy heart. Peace, peace on all things. May 29, 1914. O my sweet Lord, those who are in thy head, that is to say, to speak more intellectually, those who have identified their consciousness with the absolute consciousness, those who have become thy supreme knowledge, can no longer have any love for thee, since they are thyself. They enjoy that infinite beatitude which is the mark of all entry of the consciousness into thy supreme essence, but the devotion of the worshipper who turns with ecstasy towards that which is above him can no longer exist. Then, to him whose mission on the earth is to manifest thy love, thou teachest to have a pure and infinite love for the whole manifested world. The love which was at first made of adoration and admiration is transformed into a love made all of compassion and devotedness. O the divine splendor of thy eternal oneness! O the infinite sweetness of thy beatitude! O the sovereign majesty of thy knowledge! Thou art the inconceivable, the marvelous. May 31, 1914. When the sun had set in the indrawn quietude of the calm twilight, all my being prostrated itself before thee, O Lord, in a mute adoration and complete surrender. Then I was the whole earth and the whole earth prostrated herself before thee, imploring the benediction of thy illumination and the beatitude of thy love. O that kneeling of the earth in supplication towards thee, then collected in itself in the silence of the night, awaiting, at once with patience and anxiety, the so longed for illumination. If it is a sweetness to be thy divine love at work in the world, it is as great a sweetness to be the infinite aspiration which rises towards that infinite love. And to be able to change thus, to be successively, almost simultaneously, that which receives and that which gives, that which transfigures and that which is transfigured, to be identified with the sorrowful darkness as with the all-powerful splendor, and, in this double identification, to discover the secret of thy sovereign oneness, is it not a way of expressing, of fulfilling thy supreme will? O my sweet Master, my heart is a burning chapel, and thou art permanently there as the sublimest of idols. Thus thy form appears to me, clad in magnificence, in the midst of the flames which consume my heart for thee, and at the same time, in my head, I see thee, I know thee as the inconceivable, the unknowable, the formless. And, in this double perception, this double knowledge, is found the plenitude of satisfaction. June 1, 1914. O victorious power of divine love, thou art the sovereign master of this world, thou art its creator and savior. Thou hast made it arise from chaos, and now thou leadest it towards its eternal ends. There is nothing too humble in which thou canst not be seen shining, no being too hostile in appearance to thy will in which I do not feel thee living, acting, radiating thy light. O my sweet Master, who art the very essence of this love, I am thy heart, and the torrents of thy love pass through my entire being in order to awaken thy love in everything, or rather to awaken everything to the consciousness of thy love which animates all. Those who recognize thee not, those who know thee not, those who try to turn away from thy divine and sweet law, I take them in my arms of love, I cradle them on my heart of love, and I offer them to thy divine blaze, so that penetrated with thy miraculous emanations, they may be converted into thy beatitude. O love, thou penetratest and transfigurest all. June 2nd, 1914. In a silent and inward quietude, in a mute adoration, uniting myself with all this dark and sorrowful substance, I salute thee, O Lord, as the divine Saviour. I bless thy love as the supreme liberator. I thank it for its innumerable boons, and I surrender myself to thee, so that thou mayst complete thy work of perfectionment. Then I identify myself with thy love, and I am nothing but thy inexhaustible love. I penetrate everything, living in the heart of each atom. I kindle in it the fire that purifies and transfigures, the fire that is never extinguished, the messenger flame of thy beatitude, which realizes all perfections. Then this love itself silently draws inwards, and turning towards thee, unknowable splendor, awaits with ecstasy thy new manifestation. June 3rd, 1914. Now that the whole being is plunged more and more into a material activity and physical realization which carries with it such a multitude of details I must think over and regulate, I appeal to thee, O Lord, that my consciousness, thus turned towards outer things, may constantly preserve this communion with thee, who art the source of all peace, all force and all beatitude. O my sweet Master, thyself work out my actions through the individual being in its integrality. Or rather, do not let anything in this individual being forget at any moment that it is only an instrument, an illusion made real, so that thou mayst intervene in it, and that thou alone livest and doest. O the benediction of thy immutable presence. June 4th, 1914. O conqueror of all obstacles, thou wilt be in us the victory over all that would offer an impediment to the accomplishment of thy divine law. Thou wilt dispel the darkness of ignorance and the black smoke of egoistic ill will. Thou wilt dissolve the evil suggestions and fortify in us the pure and clear vision, the perspicacity which does not allow itself to be deceived by disintegrating thoughts and velleities of disorder. O my sweet Master, thy infinite love is the reality of our being. Who can struggle against its omnipotent action? It penetrates all, passes through all obstacles, whether it is the inertia of a heavy ignorance or the resistance of an uncomprehending ill will. O my sweet Master, through and by this love, thou shinest in all things, and this splendor, becoming more and more powerful, will actively radiate over the whole earth and become perceptible to every consciousness. Who can resist thy divine power? Thou art the sole and supreme reality. My being gathers itself in a mute adoration, and everything disappears that is not thou. June 9th, 1914. O Lord, I am before thee as an offering ablaze with the burning fire of divine union, and that which is thus before thee, is all the stones of this house and all that it contains, all those who cross its threshold and all those who see it, all those who are connected with it in one way or another, and by close degrees the whole earth. From this center, this burning nucleus which is and will be more and more penetrated with thy light and love, thy forces will radiate over the whole earth, visibly and invisibly, in the hearts of men and in their thoughts. Such is the certitude thou givest me in reply to my aspiration for thee. An immense wave of love descends upon everything and penetrates all. Peace, peace on all earth, victory, plenitude, marvel. O beloved children, sorrowful and ignorant, and thou, O rebellious and violent nature, open your hearts, tranquilize your force. It is the omnipotence of love that is coming to you. It is the pure radiance of the light that is penetrating you. This human, this earthly hour is the most beautiful among all the hours. Let all know it and enjoy the plenitude that is accorded. O saddened hearts and anxious foreheads, foolish obscurity and ignorant ill will, let your anguish be calmed and effaced. This is the splendor of the new word that comes, I am here. June 11th, 1914. Each morning, O Lord, it is an innumerable salutation that rises towards thee, the salutation of all the states of being and the multitude of their elements. And it is a daily consecration of all to the all, an appeal of ignorance and egoism to thy light and love. And thy reply comes constant and integrally perceived, all is light, all is love, ignorance and egoism are but vain phantoms which can be dissolved. And over all spreads thy sovereign peace, thy fecund calm. June 12, 1914. O my sweet Master, eternal splendor, I can but unite with thee in silence and peace, saying, let thy will be done in the details as in the whole. Take possession of thy kingdom, control all that revolts against thee, heal the souls that know thee not and the intellects that refuse to submit and to be consecrated to thee. Awaken the slumbering energies, stimulate the courage, enlighten us, O Lord, show us the way. My heart is overflowing with a sovereign peace and my mind is calm and silent. Deep behind all that is, all that will be, all that is not, is thy divine and immutable smile. June 13th, 1914. We must first conquer knowledge, that is to say, learn how to know thee, to be united with thee, and all means are good and can be employed to attain this end. But it would be a great mistake to think that all is done when this end is attained. All is done in principle, the victory is won theoretically, and those who have for their motive only the egoistic aspiration for their own salvation can be satisfied and can then live only in and for this communion, without any care for thy manifestation. But those whom thou hast chosen as thy representatives upon the earth cannot be satisfied with the result so obtained. To know thee, first and before everything else, yes. But once the knowledge of thee is acquired, there remains all the work of thy manifestation. And then intervene the quality, force, complexity and perfection of that manifestation. Very often those who have known thee, dazzled and transported with ecstasy by their knowledge, are content to see thee for themselves and to express thee as best or as worst they can in their outermost being. He who would be perfect in thy manifestation cannot be satisfied with that. He must manifest thee on all the planes, in all the states of the being, and thus draw from the knowledge he has acquired the greatest possible profit for the whole world. Before the immensity of the program, the whole being exults and sings to thee a hymn of gladness. All nature in full conscious activity, vibrating all over with thy sovereign forces, responds to their inspiration and wills to be illumined and transfigured by them. Thou art the master of the world, the sole reality. June 14th, 1914. It is a veritable work of creation we have to do, to create new activities and new modes of being, so that this force, unknown to the earth till now, may manifest in its plenitude. It is to this work of a bringing to birth that I have consecrated myself, O Lord, because it is this that thou demandest from me. But since it is for this work that thou hast chosen me, thou must give me the means, that is to say, the knowledge necessary for its realization. We shall unite our efforts. The whole individual being will concentrate itself in a constant appeal towards the knowledge of the way of manifestation of the force, and thou, supreme center of the being, thou wilt fully emanate the force, so that it may penetrate, transfigure and surmount all obstacles. This is the pact thou hast signed with the worlds of individual life. Thou hast made a promise, thou hast sent into these worlds those able and that which is empowered to fulfill this promise. This now calls for thy integral help, so that what has been promised may be realized. There must take place in us the union of the two wills and the two currents, so that from their contact may be born the illuminating spark. And since it has to be done, it will be done. June 15th, 1914. Lie nestled in my heart and do not worry, what has to be done will be done. And it is just when you do without knowing it that it is done best. I am in thy heart, O Lord, and nothing can take me away from it. And it is from the unfathomable depths of that heart, in the smiling peace of its beatitude, that I watch all the outer forms of thy manifestation, striving, endeavoring to understand and manifest thee better. If the hour has come, as thou lettest me know, for the new forms of thy realization, those forms must needs be born. Something in the being has a presentiment but does not yet know. So it makes an effort to adapt itself, to rise to the height of what thou demandest of it. But that which is conscious of thee and lives in thy force, knows that this new form is but an infinitesimal advance in the infinite progression of thy manifestation, and regards every form with the serenity of eternal plenitude. And in this serenity is the very omnipotence of realization. We must know how to soar in an unshakable confidence. In the assured flight is the perfect knowledge. June 16, 1914. Like a sun, thy splendor descends upon the earth and thy rays will illumine the world. All the elements which are pure enough, plastic enough, receptive enough to manifest the very splendor of the central fire group themselves. This is not at all arbitrary, and does not depend upon the will or the aspiration of one element or another, it depends upon what he is, independent of all individual decision. Thy splendor would radiate. That which is capable of manifesting it, manifests it, and these elements gather to reconstitute, as perfectly as possible in this world of division, the divine center which is to manifest. In the wonder of this contemplation, the cells of the being exult. And seeing that which is, the integral substance enters into ecstasy. How to distinguish now this substance from thyself? It is thou completely, integrally, intensely in a perfect identification. June 17, 1914. All that has been conceived and realized up to now is mediocre, commonplace, insufficient compared with what has to be. The perfections of the past have no longer any force at present. A new puissance is needed to transform the new powers and make them submit to thy divine will. Ask and it shall be, such is thy constant reply. And now, O Lord, thou must create in this being a constant, uninterrupted, intense, passionate aspiration in an unshakable serenity. Silence and peace are there, a constancy in the intensity must be born. Oh, thy heart sings an hallelujah of gladness as if what thou hast willed is in course of being realized. Let all these elements perish, so that from their ashes may emerge new elements adapted to the new manifestation. Oh, the immensity of thy luminous peace! Oh, the omnipotence of thy sovereign love! And beyond all that can be thought, the ineffable splendor of what we can foresee. Give us the thought, give us the word, give us the force. Enter into the arena of the world, O newborn unknown. June 18, 1914. The same will is ever at work. The force is there, waiting till it can manifest itself. The new form must be discovered which will make possible the new manifestation. And no other than thou, O Lord, can give this knowledge. It is for our integral being to make an effort, to ask, to aspire. But it is for thee to respond by illumination, knowledge and power. O the canticle of joy of thy victorious presence. June 19, 1914. Fill our hearts with the delight of thy love. Flood our minds with the splendor of thy light. Grant that we may manifest thy victory. June 20, 1914. Thou must accomplish the work of transfiguration. Thou must show us the way to be followed and give us the power to follow it to the end. O thou, who art the source of all love and all light, whom we cannot know in thy very self, but can more and more completely and perfectly manifest, whom we cannot reach by thought but can approach in a profound silence, to complete thy immeasurable boons, thou must come to our aid till we have won thy victory. Let that true love be born which allays all suffering. Establish that unshakable peace in which lies the true power. Give us the sovereign knowledge which dispels all darkness. Up from the infinite depths even to this most external body, even in its smallest elements, thou flowest, thou livest, vibrating, setting all in motion, and the entire being is now one block, a multiplicity infinite and yet one coherent whole, animated by a single and formidable vibration, thou. June 21, 1914. To be a mirror, at once passive and perfectly pure, turned at the same time towards outer and inner things, towards the results of the manifestation and the origin of the manifestation, so that the consequences may be presented to the directing will, and to be, in addition, the realizing activity of that will. This is, approximately, what a human being should be. To combine the two attitudes, passive receptivity and realizing activity, is precisely the thing most difficult to achieve. And it is this thou attendest from us, O Lord, and since it is attended by thee from us, there is no doubt that thou wilt give us the means to realize it. For what has to be will be, even more splendidly than we can imagine. O may thy love go on becoming more and more ample in the manifestation, ever more sublime, profound, vast. June 22, 1914. What has to be will be, what has to be done will be done. What a calm certitude thou hast put into my being, O Lord. Who or what will manifest thee? Who can yet say? Thou dwellest in all that makes an effort towards a completer and higher new manifestation. But the center of the light is not yet manifested, because the center of the manifestation is not yet perfectly adapted. O Divine Master, what has to be will be, and it will perhaps be very different from what all expect. But how to express certain silent secrets? The force is there, in it is the self. When and how will it surge out? When thou wilt decide that the instrument is ready. O the sweetness of thy calm certitude, the power of thy peace. June 23, 1914. Thou art the sovereign power of transformation, why shouldst thou not act upon all those who are put in relation with thee through us as intermediaries? We lack faith in thy power. We always think that for this integral transformation to take place, men must will in their conscious thought. We forget that it is thou who wiliest in them and that thou canst will in such a way that all their being may be illumined. We doubt thy power, O Lord, and that is why we become bad intermediaries and we veil the major part of its transforming force. O give us this faith which we lack, this certitude in the detail which is wanting in us. Deliver us from the ordinary way of thinking and judging. Grant that, living in the consciousness of thy infinite love, we may see it at work at every moment, and by being conscious of it we may put it in relation with the most material states of being. O Lord, deliver us from all ignorance, give us the true faith. June 24, 1914. From the point of view of the manifestation, the work to be continued on the earth, hierarchy is necessary. In this world which is still in disorder, can it be established without something arbitrary entering into it, that is to say, in perfect conformity with thy law? The witnessing being looks calm, indifferent, smiling at the play, the comedy which unrolls itself, awaiting circumstances with serenity, knowing that they are always only an imperfect translation of what should be. But the religious being turns towards thee, O Lord, in a great aspiration of love and implores thy aid, so that it may be the best that is realized, that all the obstacles possible may be surmounted, all the darkness possible dispelled and all egoistic ill will conquered. It is not the best in the circumstances of the present order which has to happen, for that happens always. It is these circumstances themselves that, by an effort greater than ever before, have to be transfigured, so that a new best in quality and quantity, an altogether exceptional best may be manifested. So may it be. It is always wrong to try to judge of the future or even to foresee it in the light of the idea that we have of it, for this idea is the present. It is, in the very measure of its impersonality, a translation of the present interrelations which inevitably are not the future interrelations of all the elements of the terrestrial problem. To deduce future from the present circumstances is a mental activity of the order of reasoning. even if this deduction takes place in the subconscious and is translated in the being under the form of intuition. And reasoning is a human, that is to say, an individual faculty. The inspirations of the reason do not come from the infinite, the unlimited, the divine. It is only in the all-knowledge, it is only when we are at once that which knows, that which is to be known and the power of knowing that we can become conscious of all relations past, present and future. But in this state there is no longer any past, present and future, all eternally is. The order of manifestation of all these relations does not depend only on the supreme impulsion, on the divine law, but also on the resistance opposed to that law by the most external world. Of the combination of the two the manifestation is born, and as far as it is possible for me to know at present, this combination is in a way indeterminate. It is in this that the play consists, the unforeseen of the play. June 25, 1914. What wisdom is there in wishing to be like this or like that? Why thus torment oneself? Art thou not the supreme worker? Is it not our duty to be thy docile instruments, and, when thou puttest the instrument aside for a time, will it complain that thou hast abandoned it because thou art not putting it into action? Can it not consent to enjoy calm and repose after having enjoyed activity and struggle? We must be always vigilant, attentive to the least call, so that we may not be asleep or inert when thou givest us a sign to act whether with the mind, the feelings or the body. But we should not confound this constant state of expectation and devoted goodwill with an anxious and unquiet agitation, a fear of not being this or that and of displeasing thee, because we do not conform to what thou hast attended from us. Thy heart is the supreme shelter in which all care is appeased. O leave it wide open, so that all those who are tormented may find there the sovereign refuge. Pierce this darkness, make the light surge out. Quiet this storm, establish peace. Calm this violence, let love reign. Become the warrior, the conqueror of obstacles. Win the victory. June 26, 1914. I salute thee, O Lord, Master of the world. Give us the capacity to do the work without being attached to it, and to develop the powers of individual manifestation without living in the illusion of the personality. Fortify our vision of the reality, confirm our perception of unity, deliver us from all ignorance and darkness. We do not ask for the perfection of the instrument, knowing, as we do, that in a world of relativities all perfection is relative. This instrument conceived for acting in this world, has, in order to be able to do it, to belong to this world. But the consciousness which animates it must be identified with thine, it must be the universal and eternal consciousness, animating the diverse multitude of bodies. O Lord, grant that we may rise above the ordinary forms of manifestation, so that thou mayst find the instruments necessary for thy new manifestation. Let us not lose sight of the goal. Grant that we may be always in union with thy force, the force which the earth does not yet know and which thou hast given us the mission to reveal to her. In a deep inward concentration, all the modes of manifestation of the being consecrate themselves to the manifestation of thee. June 27, 1914. My being is content with what thou givest to it. What thou demandest from it, it will do, without weakness, without vain modesty and without any useless ambition. What matters the place one occupies, the mission entrusted by thee? Is this not all to be entirely thine, as perfectly as one can, without any care of any sort? In this deep and unshakable confidence that thy work will be done and that thou hast created and chosen those who have to do it, why strain a useless energy to will what has already been realized? Thou hast given me, O Lord, the sovereign peace of this confidence. Thou hast accorded to me the incomparable boon of living in thy love and by thy love and of being thy love more and more. And in this love is the complete and unchanging beatitude. I address to thee only one prayer, which I know to have been heard in advance: increase more and more the number of the elements, atoms or universes capable of living integrally in and by thy love. Peace, peace on all the earth. June 28, 1914. All nature salutes thee, O Lord, and with arms raised and hands outstretched, she implores thee. Not that she doubts thy infinite generosity or thinks that she must ask in order to obtain. But it is her way of saluting and giving herself to thee, for is this self-giving anything else than her readiness to receive? It is sweet to her to turn to thee in prayer, though she knows that prayer is superfluous. But it is an ardent and happy adoration. And her feeling of devotion is satisfied without any harm done to the intellectual consciousness which knows thee to be one with all and present in all. But all veils must disappear and the light become complete in all hearts. O Lord, in spite of the work and in it, give us the perfect calm of the Spirit which makes possible the divine identification, the integral knowledge. My love for thee, O Lord, it is thyself, and yet my love bows down religiously before thee. June 29, 1914. Give to all of them joy, peace and happiness. If they suffer, illumine their suffering and make it a means of transfiguration. Grant to them the beatitude of thy love and the peace of thy unity. May their hearts feel vibrating in them thy eternal presence. They are all in me, O Lord, and I am in them, and as in place of the I, there is now only thy sovereign love, they are all in thy love and will be transfigured by it. O Lord, my sweet Master, unknowable splendor, give them joy, peace and beatitude. June 30, 1914. Each activity in its own sphere accomplishing its special mission, without any disorder or confusion, one enveloping another, and all hierarchically arranged around a single center. Thy will, what is most lacking in human beings is clarity and order. Each element, each state of being, instead of fulfilling its function in harmony with all the others, wants to be all in itself, perfectly autonomous and independent. That, besides, is the ignorant error of the whole world. It is a global error repeating itself in millions and millions of examples. But to try, under the pretext that these activities are separate and disorderly, to suppress them in order to let thy will alone subsist, although, in solitude, it would have no longer any reason for existence, would be an enterprise at once absurd and unrealizable. Certainly, it is easier to suppress than to organize. But a harmonious order is a realization far superior to suppression. And even if the final end were a return to non-being, this return would appear to me possible only through the highest perfectioning of the being. O my sweet Master, grant that they may feel thy infinite tenderness and that, in the calm repose which is its gift, they may perceive and realize the supreme order of thy law. May thy will which is all love and thy peace be manifested. July 1, 1914. We salute thee, O Lord, with adoration and joy, and we give ourselves to thee in a gift constantly renewed, so that thy will may be done on the earth and in all places in this world. Turning towards thee our thought is mute, but our heart exults, for thou shinest in everything, and the smallest grain of sand can be an occasion for adoration. We bow down before thee, we unite with thee, O Lord, in a love without limit and full of an ineffable beatitude. O give to all this sovereign joy. July 4, 1914. O sovereign force, victorious power, purity, beauty, love supreme, allow the integrality of this being, the totality of this body to approach thee solemnly and offer to thee in a complete and humble surrender this means of manifestation perfectly given up to thy will, if not perfectly ripe for this realization. With the calm and strong certitude that thou wilt one day accomplish the expected miracle and fully manifest thy sublime splendor, we turn towards thee in a profound ecstasy and silently implore thee. Immensity, infinitude, wonder, thou alone art and shinest in all things. The hour of thy fulfillment is near. All nature solemnly retires into a calm concentration. And thou repliest to her ardent appeal. July 5, 1914. All that belongs to the outer and lower being which is still obscure, prostrates itself in a mute and fervent adoration, appealing with all its force to thy purifying action which will make it fit to manifest thee fully. And in this adoration is found perfect silence and perfect beatitude. Thou repliest mercifully to the appeal, what has to be done shall be done. The necessary instruments shall be prepared. Make thy endeavor with calm, with certitude. July 6, 1914. What a plenitude in the perception! The whole individual being, modest, humble, surrendered, adoring, calm and smiling, feels one with all, can make no differences of value. It is in perfect solidarity with all, and with that all it kneels in front of thee. And at the same time the formidable omnipotence of thy force is there. Ready for manifestation, waiting, it is building the propitious hour, the favorable opportunity, it is there, the incomparable splendor of thy victorious sovereignty. The force is there. Rejoice, you who wait and hope, the new manifestation is sure. The new manifestation is near. The force is there. All nature exults and sings in joy, all nature is in holiday. The force is there. Arise and live. Rise and be illuminated. Arise and battle for the transfiguration of all, the force is there.